Greetings, Judah. DFG here, Gideon's Flight. Hey guys, I just want to take a moment today in June 1st and bring back to your remembrance, and hopefully y'all willing, he will put in me, as one of the probably millions of us, for all I know, as a voice somewhat crying, in the urban areas. I wanted to say wilderness, but I guess it is a wilderness if you think in terms of how you can get lost in wilderness, how most of our people are actually lost in this wilderness. They have no sense of purpose, no sense of direction. A sense of honor is now, dissipating within our community, and pretty much due to a lack of family infrastructure, our people pretty much just tend to do whatever they want to do and never give it a second thought how that influences or impacts us as a nation of people. But I will not be quiet. I will continue to bring forward, the word of Yah, the word of wisdom, so that we understand clearly what we're up against, and for those of us, who are the elective Yah, that we keep in remembrance. The book says that we should encourage each other as the end of time draws near. And so, that is the objective of this particular message this morning. Because Yeshua warned us that we should be careful that we be not deceived, that there will be many false, teachers in the land. And many people will be deceived by these teachers. Go back and read Matthew chapter 24. Just if you need something to follow along with, or nothing else to go back and review, based off of the content of this message that I'm sharing. He said, be careful that we be not deceived. There will be many false teachers. And I want to be clear here, because sometimes when we start talking about false teachers, we all tend to look at, maybe the religious infrastructure, because there are a lot of false teachers there. Or we start to look at, even the so-called educational system. Surely there are many false teachers there. But also, guys, ladies, I think we need to remember that there are false teachers in the mainstream media. Your so-called information sharing people, your news reporters, your government officials. All of these are false teachers. They all have an agenda, that's aligned with, the agenda of this world, and that agenda is, giving power to the Antichrist. And the book says that the son of perdition will come. Go back to Revelations, and this person, with the beast, they will take and they will influence the whole entire world to demand that they take the mark of the beast. I mean, demand it. And any people who refuse, will be killed. I mean, it reads out real clear, just as clear as I'm stating that. Revelation 13, Revelations 14. And this should be something that we should never forget, as they start to drum up, their fear. Be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. This Memorial Day weekend, I'll give you an example. First thing you hear on the news. This Memorial Day weekend was one of the most violent weekends ever. So many people were killed in Houston, and so many people were killed. Well, people die every single day. So why all of a sudden, they use these 3 days? I mean, it wasn't like yesterday morning a bunch of people were killed. No, they're talking about from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I suspect if you go back and look at any weekend, you could probably get numbers that are comparable to those numbers. But see what they do, they use this information and they use these holidays. That's why I tell you guys you shouldn't participate in them. Because all these holidays are ritual days. These are days where the witches and the sorcerers, the wicked of the planet, they use these days to offer sacrifices up to Baal. That's what this is all of paganism. This is what paganism is about. It's about blood sacrifices. So what they do, they come up with a festival day, i.e. Memorial Day, the Day of the Dead, neomancy, if you know what that is. But they'll use the Day of the Dead, and then what they do, they perpetuate killing. And I'm sure they've had some of, I'm sure they, did whatever they do to make sure those killings happened. But they'll use that, you know, as though somehow or another it had everything to do with just Memorial Day weekend. It's kind of crazy, but I'm just telling you. But if you don't step back and really analyze what I just stated, you'll buy right into it. You'll jump right up and say, boy, you know, people getting really, really terrible out here. We're going to need to have more, you know, legislation or more supervision or more government control over, you know, guns, because people are losing their minds. No, people are being manipulated out of their minds. And I'm not talking about the ones who are doing the killing. I'm talking about those of us who are doing the listening. Because they don't give a damn about the dead. The dead don't know nothing. So they're reporting this to the living. They want the living to become horrified. Or they'll go around and talk about, you know, how many people are going to get sick and how the sickness has affected everybody all over the world and all over the globe. But then when you step back and you start looking at numbers, you know, of people who died last year or the year before last, or maybe take, for example, go back and look at how many people died in 2018, then go back and look at how many people died in 2019. You're going to find a strange comparison there. And it's going to make you have one of those, moments like, wait a minute. You know, was I just deceived into believing something that wasn't true based off of some agenda that's out there to manipulate me, to, again, deceive me? You know, it kind of reminds me of, you know, when we were kids, you know, when your mom didn't want you playing with fireworks, she would make a comment like, boy, you're going to get your hand blown off with them, you know, now your firecracker got enough much gunpowder to, I don't know, to probably maybe kill, you know, a roach or a bee. But yeah, you were told it's gonna blow your hands off, so therefore your hands are shaking when you touch that firecracker. You know, it's kind of that, you know, type of mental, you know, manipulation. You know, where you get scared out of your wits over something that's so ridiculous that if you took a second to step back and looked at it in wisdom, you'd realize, I mean, a firecracker can't blow my hand off. I mean, it might sting me, it might, I don't know, maybe blow my fingernail off, but it ain't gonna blow my hand off. But again, these lies, this deception is being pushed out there because they are trying to get us to a place where we are so afraid that we will turn to all of these government organizations all over the world who are ran by corporations all over the world, who are owned by the hidden hand, the dark places all over the world, the dark people, the people of the night, the people of the dark, the wicked. The book calls spiritual wickedness in high places. That we'd all be running to them for solutions. And that's the agenda, to get us so afraid, get you so afraid that however ridiculous expectation is set by them, however ridiculous a mandate is being pushed by them, for the most part, you're going to go along with it because they have, you know, mentally, you know, wore you down through fear, debt, plague, until you get to the point where you're so exhausted that you don't even think anymore. You just lay down and say, okay, just tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. Never realizing that the closer, you know, we draw to men and governments, the farther away we are pulled from Yah. Because you notice that all of these people and all these things that they're saying, all this fear they talk about, all this debt, mayhem that they talk about, you notice they never talk about Elohim. They never tell the people it's time to turn and pray. You notice that? Why aren't the government officials, why aren't these corporations, why are these powers that be telling people to pray? Why aren't they bringing up, hey, look, you know, this is wicked, this is evil, this is sin. If we want this stuff to stop, we have to start following the laws and the commandments. And hey, guys, don't y'all know that the Bible says thou shalt not kill? You know, I'm just, you know, I mean, the heathen, you know, will never honor the word. I get that. But I'm just simply saying, I mean, why is it no mention? Why is it no mention of the word of Elohim? So, you know, it will tell us about all this wickedness that abounds. You know what I'm saying? And Skater used their word bejeebers out of most people. But they never tell the people that a basic solution is just, if you go back to the morals and the values and the standards, you know what I'm saying, that are taught in our particular book, you would end probably, shit, who knows how much of this mayhem. But they never, ever go there. Because, see, to go there is if you draw men close to Yah, that means men are going to start to turn farther and farther away from them. And so now it's just the opposite. We're becoming so dependent on men and their lies, their deception, that most people just refuse to even stop for a second and go to the book. You know, they'll go run to one of these Baal worship temples, you know, so-called churches. They'll go run in there. I mean, at this stage of the game, I don't understand why they're going in there. I mean, you're going to see a ritual if you go in there. You know, if you notice that every so-called church service starts the same way. They do their little singing, then they do their talking, then they do their preaching, then they do their collecting, then they do their singing again, and tell you to be sure to come back, and that's it. And that goes on over and over. You know, what did Yeshua call that? Vain repetitions. Then he said that's what the heathens do. He said, be not like the heathens and their vain reputations, that they like to preach from the high top. They like to preach from the corners. Did he not say that? I think, go back to where he talks about the Lord's Prayer. I want to say that's Matthew either 6 or 7. And he starts off, do not like the heathens, because they love to be heard for their many words. They love the high places. Didn't he say that? And yet, somehow or another, our people haven't given that any thought. And they run in there over and over and over and over. I'm talking about our people. The world going to do it because that's what they do. They are ceremonial, ritual Baal worshipers. That is what they do. That's how they get their power. That's how they keep their power. That's why everything with them is symbols and organizations and associations. That's how they derive their power. They get their power through their sacrifices, through their ceremonies. Oh, and by the way, by their feast days, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, Easter. I can go on and on. That's how that's how they get their strength. Columbus Day, Martin Luther King Day. That's how they get it, because those days they control everything. They even tell you if you're going to work or not. Amen. And that's how they derive their power. But our people, we're not supposed to to do those things. Our book tells us that we're not even supposed to have any association with any of these so-called world rituals. Because he knows that the minute we start participating, we're going to become consumed just like the heathens. And before you know it, we'll be doing just what Yeshua told us not to do. Vain repetitions. Doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. And that's what's happening now. Our people are running into these churches, synagogue, mosques, temples, doing the same thing every single Baal Sunday, or the day of the sun. Or for that matter, Saturdays or whatever day they're running in there. The same thing over and over, and nothing is changing. It's only getting progressively worse. Now, wouldn't that be an indicator to you that this is not working? But because we're becoming socially engineered and programmed to believe that man has a solution to the problems of this earth, not Yah, that we're just doing all kind of insanity. And then the way to keep us doing this insane behavior is they push fear. This many people got killed. This is how many people got sick. This is how many people, are taking the necessary cautions to end this sickness. And it just goes on. And now people are looking at each other with this wild look in their eyes and just reacting, responding, because I just plain think they don't know what else to do. I mean, most people, you go ask them, what's your plan? What do you have intended, for the next 2 or 3 years? They couldn't tell you. I don't know, man. Who else? I don't know. Well, what they should be saying is preparing for Yah return. And in the meantime, getting provisions together. And don't think that Yah didn't tell us to do that. He did say there will be time to sell your coat to get a sword. That's preparation. And as he told you to sell your coat or your purse and buy a sword, you don't think he's going to tell you to store up food? You don't think that he would expect you to already anticipate or be able to think critically enough to start storing up provision, for the wicked times to come? Because some of us are going to die. The book says 2/3. But some of us are going to live. Now, and the question is, how will you live? Now, you can live, like a pauper and live in the mud, eating you know, pig food and pigs and slop and things that eat dead things because you didn't prepare. Or you can have gardens and save up vegetables. You know what I mean by store up? That's the right word. Get big 5-gallon buckets, 10-gallon buckets, whatever you have to get, barrels. Put beans, put rice. You know, make sure you got lighter starter things. You know that you can use for fuel. You know, if you can't use electricity, matches. You know, blankets. You know, all of these different things that are readily available, but are soon to become in short supply. That you should already be collecting if you haven't already collected it. And, you know, but most of us are so caught up in what are they going to say tomorrow? What they said on the news, what they said now, what are they saying now? Oh man, it's just worrying, instead of preparing. You know what I'm saying? Your soul, guys, our soul is the most precious thing that we have. And if you're following the gods of this world, in other words, the leaders of this world, you are going to have to give up your soul if you're going to do that successfully. You're going to have to give up your soul. And Yah said, what did it profit a man, you know, to gain the whole world and lose his soul? It profits you nothing. But that's what you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to give up your soul. Why do you think they're asking you to roll up your sleeves? Because I suspect that what's coming down the pipeline, you know, is going to make your body so weak that you're not going to be able to fight off anything. Some of them, you know what I'm saying? And some of us are going to be as strong as we were before this thing started happening a year or so ago. Because we're still strong, many of us. But we've been taking care of ourselves for years. If you follow this channel, I was telling you 2 or 3, 4 years ago to lose weight, to exercise, to start eating better, drinking water, getting your rest. I've told you that a long time because the time was going to come where that if you weren't healthy, you know, you were going to be at risk of having poor health and at the mercy of those who really don't give a damn about you, those who would much rather you be out of the way. So, you know, this is not new information. But again, as I stated in the beginning of this video, sometimes it's good just for a review, just to remind you. Not those who are not going to obey and not going to listen. Y'all said there will be many, you know, that are going to hear but not do. Many are going to hear these words and do nothing. But he said for the elect amongst us, we need to keep on, you know, teaching and sharing. And so, you know, when you start looking at this world's teachers, you need to remember, they're here to deceive you. They're here to mislead you. I know you don't want to believe me, and I understand why you don't want to believe me. You've been programmed that they know better for you. But look at your life. Does your life reflect that they know better for you? Yeah, I know they gave you some things, but look at what they gave you. They gave you crumbs from the master's table. Yeah, that's enough to get to the next dinner, the next meal, to come back to, you know, to their labor camps and go back to work tomorrow. Or enough to keep you sitting at home, you know what I'm saying? Waiting for them to, you know, to send you some more stimulus. But is your life better? Are you mentally better? Are your children growing and using cognitive skills to make good, intelligent decisions? I mean, Monique and one of her dear sisters, Kimberly Frazier, did a message yesterday talking about women going outside with bonnets on their head. I didn't even know what a bonnet was. But I guess these little, you know, caps they put on their head to not mess their hair up, and walking around with slippers in the airports and pajamas out in public places, and the men walking around with their pants down, showing their behinds are showing, clearly showing their behinds and so-called underwear. And they think nothing of it. They think that's normal. As a matter of fact, they have been brainwashed and social engineered to believe that's stylish. It's the style now. They got matching bonnets and slippers. Mama and daughter looking just alike. Father and sons looking just alike. Everybody walking around with, you know, with no clothes on. And remember that old story about the emperor has no clothes. You're kings and naked. And unfortunately, that's probably a good, you know, comparison of Judah, Israel. You know, the emperors have no clothes. But the reason the emperor has no clothes because the emperor doesn't know who he is, and nor does his woman. And again, teachers like myself, that's what we're out here to do. We're out here to remind you that you shouldn't fear the world. Don't fear these things. Fear Yah. You know, fear his return and you not being prepared. That's what you should be fearing. Fear that you haven't done your part to train up your children in the knowledge of Elohim. Fear that you have not, invested yourself to grow in this knowledge. Prepared your soul, for your transition. Because you're going to die. We're all going to die one day. So the question is, what's going to happen after death? And many of our people, unfortunately, are going to die the second death. The first death is this physical death, and the second death is going to be separation from Elohim. And the book calls it the lake of fire, where you're going to remain for eternity. You and those beautiful little children you love so much are the ones that you allowed the enemy to take and destroy, who are really dependent upon you for guidance and being led, to a better world. Obviously, that's the world to come. But because of your fear and your ignorance and you being drawn close to them, you're so occupied and so afraid that whatever they're telling you is going to happen to you, that you forgot all about your soul. And I'm here to remind you, that your soul is the most valuable thing that you have. And your soul is not going to be enriched, without a relationship with Elohim. It's just not going to happen. And he is our true messenger. He's our, Yeshua is the Messiah with the message. I came to save those which were lost. He was talking about us. I came to, to bring them back, to their rightful place, with Yah. He was again talking about us. But he said, I cried, but they, I cried out, but they would not hear me. I brought bread, but they would not eat. I shined the light, but they preferred darkness. So in this message, as a reminder, you be careful that you're not being deceived. But there are many false Christs and many false prophets in the land. And they're going to deceive many people. We talked about these lying spirits, these lying thoughts, suggestions, and ideas that they're putting in your head. Putting in your head to be just like them. I got to control everything and I got to control everybody. Well, here's a new revelation. How about just figuring out how to control yourself? How about managing yourself? You know what I'm saying? And the only way you're going to be able to do that is you're going to need the covering of the Rahuk. The world calls the Holy Spirit, those that even know what it is. That's what you need to focus on you, on your soul. And then, prepare for what Yah has, in store for you. And, was it Isaiah who reminded us, the eye has not seen, nor has it entered into the heart of a man. Ear has not heard the beauty of those things that Yah has prepared for those who love him. Those who have prepared themselves for him. And think about it, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing, if a so-called shit hit the fan event happens, and you and your family have the reserves stored up, and y'all don't have to be out in the street, fighting with the mass crowds trying to scramble for food and for water. That you could just be in your home, safe, with your loved ones, with your man, with your covering. And knowing that, that Yah has put a seal around that house. And nothing is going to even come. They don't even know that you're there because they're out in the streets looking for each other. I was studying the book just recently, and I saw at least 5, 6 different places where people would be eating their own children in the book. I kid you not. It's there, saying that there was going to be a time where people will be eating each other. Now, how do you think that happens? Because there's a lack of reserves out there. And many of these people are not prepared. Think about how many people are not prepared. Are you prepared? So if they're not prepared and they need to eat and they start starving, you don't think the strong is gonna prey on the weak? All of these, sisters out here. I'm not gonna go in on you, but all of these sisters out here, you dress so fine, you got your nice clothes on, you got your nice hairdo, your face made up. What's it going to look like when you don't have access to any of that stuff? You can't even get a feminine napkin. Because I suspect most of you don't have you don't have feminine napkins stored up. And what do you think is going to happen? The book says in Isaiah chapter, and I tell you, ladies, go read Isaiah chapter 3 and the first few verses in Isaiah chapter 4. That's an end time warning to you, sisters. Just go read it, because that way, when you hear me talk about it, you don't become angry or embittered at me. You realize that I'm just warning you because I love you. I'm trying to tell you, look, the way you're living, the way you're walking is contrary to the way of Elohim. That's all I'm saying to you. This fight that you have with your man, this fight that you have with men in general, it's the wrong fight. You're fighting the wrong enemy. You have been programmed to believe that your men are your enemies. That's social engineering. That's being deceived. You're being deceived that somehow your man's behavior, although it's not a direct confront to you, and it's being created by powers beyond you and your man. There's hostility between us. I'm talking about you and us. That there are people in the backdrop that's perpetuating the fight and exaggerating this so-called hatred that we have inside of our community. The black man with the so-called black man and the black woman. And unfortunately, many have bought into it. Many of the men have bought into it too. Why you think there's MGTOW men going their own way? Many of us have bought into it. You know, they have encouraged you that, you know what I'm saying, that you can use a woman in the same way that you can use a man. And then telling your men they can use another man the same way that they can use a woman. Now, there ought to be enough common sense in your mind and your heart to know that makes absolutely no sense. But, you know, when you're deceived, it makes all the sense in the world. When you're deceived, it makes all the sense in the world. And I venture that many of you really believe that that makes sense. Why not use a man if I'm a man like I'm using a woman? Or if I'm a woman, why not use a woman like I use a man, you know, another woman? Why not? Dress her up to look like a man, call her my wife, and you know, take my chances. Well, according to the book, it's an abomination. And you will go to hell for it. Revelation 21:8. And if you don't know what abomination, if you think that I'm wrong in calling that abomination, then go read, what is it? I want to say I think it's Deuteronomy 20:13 or Leviticus 20:13, and then read 18 and 14. I think it's both of them are Deuteronomy. Go read it. And it calls it an abomination. The book calls it so wicked that Yah said we're supposed to kill people who live that lifestyle. He says the believers are supposed to kill people who live like that. He's saying his nation of people, the people who obey the law, statutes, and commandments, are supposed to kill people who live like that. I'm just talking what the book says. All right, obviously we're not going to do that. But my point is, but that is the deception that's going on into our land, mass deception. When truth is that, you know, if you go back to Isaiah 3 and 4, like I just said, he will tell you that, look, this thing is about to get really, really bad. You know, your men are going to die by the sword. They're going to kill each other. So if there's any truth to what happened in Houston or the deaths or the murders, it's just Bible prophecy being fulfilled. Why didn't they say that? You know, coming out of the so-called Memorial Day weekend. Boy, the Bible says that men were going to be killing each other with a sword or with guns and stuff, and it happened. Why didn't they just say that? See, that would have been too much like truth. So they're just going to tell you, oh, no, it's just something else going on, and the moon, it's this red moon, it's this blood moon, or whatever kind of moon it is, and that moon is called the lunar moon, and just shit that is so occultic, it is not funny. And most people who know nothing about astrology falling for that shit. Oh, yeah, it sounds about right to me. When the book would have told you that, my brothers and my sisters, the book would have told you don't even be out there this Memorial Day weekend. The book would have told you, you know, you should, you know, be, you know, building. But I mean building, teaching your family, teaching your children, you know, loving your family, loving your children, teaching your community, loving your community, teaching your people, loving your people, teaching your nation and loving your nation. That's what you should have been doing this weekend. You should have treated this weekend just another opportunity, one more day to grow strong in Elohim. But many of you didn't. You followed the way of the heathen, and the ways of the heathen is death. Broad is the path, wide is the gate that leadeth to destruction, and many of our people are going to go that way. You're familiar with that verse of scripture. But that's where we are now. So this teacher again tell you, look, don't worry about the fear mongers. Let them do all their fear scaring and let them scare themselves to death. You know, the book said they're going to turn on each other. Brother's going to kill brother. Daughter's going to kill mom. Mom going to kill son. Going to kill. He already said that that's what they were going to do. But do you want that to happen to you as well? Because if you don't pull out from among them, they're going to take you down too. As a matter of fact, when they feel like, you've heard me say many, many times, that's been their behavior. When they finish with each other, they come into you. At some point, they're going to blame you for all of their misery. I'm talking about the other nations of this world. Go back and read Psalms 83. Psalms 83. And it says all the nations of the world are going to turn against our people. Why you think that is? Because they're going to blame us for everything. Like they're blaming us as the main carriers or the targeted group for this so-called pandemic. All right? So I'm just saying it to you. We're targeted. You can't deny that. You cannot deny they have targeted us. And they have told us, well, because we love you, that's why we're targeting you. But no, but okay, I ain't going to get into nothing deep because I'm going to try to keep this channel up as long as I can. All right? I could get into the depths of that, but that's for you to find out. But anyway, that's my message to you. Remind you that you don't need the world. The world is going to try to scare you into submission. It's going to create fear that you can't do it, you know what I'm saying, without their support. And I'm telling you, we can do all things through Yeshua. Through the word of Yah in Yeshua. We can do all things. He has given us the power to overcome anything. But you don't believe, you can't do anything. If you believe the world, then you're subject to the gods of this world. And whatever they say, guess what? That's what's going to happen to you. But if you're seeking Elohim and his word, his truth, then no weapon formed against us is going to prosper. And see, when they start saying all this negative stuff about us, Yah said he's going to make them eat their own words. That's what he means. Every word that come against you, he's going to condemn. So let them say what they want to say. Let them call you religious or religious lunatic or whatever they call you for believer, for being a believer. Let them call you the names. You see, just like in the days of Noah. See, when Noah and his family got in that ark and Yah sealed them doors, they were begging Noah to let them in. And Noah said, I can't let you in. Yah sealed it. These same people are calling you these names, calling you religious and a lunatic and a fanatic, and you're going too far. Those are the same people, when shit hits the fan, I'm telling you, are going to be looking for you, and it's going to be too late for them. Just don't let it be too late for you by letting them scare you and causing you to walk and be amongst them. Come out from among them. Be separate, my brothers, my sisters. And then trust Yah to guide you and give you the wisdom to be prepared. He said when they cry peace and safety, sudden destruction is going to come. When they cry normalcy, he says everything abnormal is going to happen, including real debt and mayhem. But that's not our destiny. That's the destiny of the world. We're warned so that we can be preserved. We're not warned so we can be afraid. We're warned again so we can be prepared. They're just scaring the shit out of each other so they can justify the acts that they start to do to each other, including, you know, mass incarceration, thrown into FEMA camps, you name it. They got to have justification for it. But that should not be your fate, my sisters and my brothers. All right? Your faith is in the word of Elohim and restoration. But that's not happening without preparation. And the first preparation is you need to draw closer to the book. Get back to the word. Get back to Elohim. You say, draw closer to me, and I'll draw closer to you. All right? And that's what this message is about this morning. Don't fear them who can kill the body. Fear him who can kill both soul and body in hell. DFG, talk to you later. Bye now.